What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Jay Spence the King. I am in the building. It is Hump Day. Hump Day. I got my peoples with me. I got sterols for the girls and my man. First of all, let me take a second and really introduce this man the right way. I got my guy. He's been family now to me for a couple years since we've been doing this. My guy, he's Arrowhead Pride. Even though I know the Chiefs Kingdom and Bills Mafia, sometimes they go at each other wrong. I get it. I get it. Ron is not that dude. Ron, why don't you let everybody know, like, just where they can find you on Twitter and all this stuff? But first, thank you for coming on, dog.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Jay Spence. Sterling, good to see you too. Appreciate you guys. Always good talking. This game, man. It's been a fun matchup over the years. But I'm the lead analyst over at arrowheadpride.com and the SB Nation Chiefs site. I do my weekly film reviews, previews. I do an opponent scout every week. So that's kind of what I'll be digging into after this show is getting a really closer look at the Bills. So you guys are getting me ready tonight. So I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up.
Let's go. So before we get into it, I do have to say that you are listening to this on Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network presented by Picasso Pizza. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. I feel like it shouldn't say shipping local. It should be delivery local,
right.
Not shipping, but I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge. Let's see. Shout out to everybody in the comments. We got my girl B in the building.
Hell, BB.
What is up, B? My man Daniel is here. JR is here. T. Estelle is here. And Chris and Daryl and all the usual suspects. Sarah's in the building. What's up, Sarah? Happy hump day, everybody, she says. Hey, Richard Rush is here. Let's get right into it, though. So, Ron, you are the guest of the hour. I want to talk to you about your team before we talk about the Bills and Chiefs game coming up. I had Pete on my show last night. I had him on the Code of Conduct, and we talked a little bit about the Chiefs and Raiders game. I want your thoughts on it. What the heck? Like, what is going on, man? Like, y'all won, but that's not the way you expect the Chiefs to come out and beat a team like the Raiders this year. What happened?
Yeah, and first off, I do think the Raiders are a little better than the record. I mean, I do want to give them a little more credit than maybe the 1-4 shows, and they did come out with a good game plan. I think that's the one thing right off the bat is the defensive game plan was really good. Doubling Kelsey, obviously before the red zone, not in the red zone. Really making it hard on the Chiefs pass game by crashing the pocket with Chandler Jones. Looked like his normal self. He hadn't really had a good season until that point. But that might have been because left tackle Orlando Brown Jr. was the guy he was going against. So, I think the main theme of that game was really, at first at least, was the offensive line just really wasn't cutting it. We were missing Trey Smith, our starting right guard. Backup guard Nick Allegretti comes in. Well, he whiffs on one run block on first down to stuff one run and gives up a sack, and this is on the opening drive. So right away, you're missing Trey Smith. And then, right tackle Andrew Wiley, gave up a couple sacks to Crosby. Brown had a rough day against Jones. But Mahomes did step up. Mahomes did kind of adjust, get better in the pocket. And that's when you kind of started to see the offense start rolling, quick passes, just getting the ball out quick. Andy obviously scheming it up. And then finishing in the red zone, obviously, not settling for field goals. Kelsey had the 4 touchdowns, which is just ridiculous. But my favorite part, guys, was the last play of the game. That's a great Raiders way to lose, just running into each other when honestly, if you kind of look at it, if the routes didn't run into each other, they might have sprung open and it might have been, a game-winning play. So great way for the Raiders to Raider, but definitely not the most encouraging performance for the Chiefs. But I'm going to chalk it up to maybe looking ahead to this game, possibly having 2 big games sandwiched between them. They're not one to have. They're going to have these letdowns, I should say. The Chiefs are going to have these letdowns energy-wise. They've done it throughout the Andy Reid era. So I'm not expecting that on Sunday coming up.
Okay, well. So my question is, first of all, shout out to Joe Miller. Joe is obviously normally the co-host with me. I don't even know what he's doing. He's doing something. So he's not here tonight. I got Steros and Ron. But the reason why I bring Joe up there is because the question that I feel like Joe would ask me at this point is, well, are we starting to finally see a weakness with the Chiefs? And because when I ask this, I'm asking with respect, because obviously over the last few years, it's almost seemed like since Mahomes took over that starting quarterback position, it just seemed like roster-wise, top to bottom, the Chiefs were just like ahead of everybody else. And when you played them, you add the talent that Patrick Mahomes has, I should say, and then it was just unfair. Now you look at the game Monday night, and Josh Jacobs has a day. He Now, granted, they added an extra offensive lineman to kind of help with that, but I mean, you're just not used to seeing the Chiefs get ran over like that. You're not used to seeing a first half where a team dominates the way they did in the first half. I tweeted out very early, and I know I probably shouldn't have tweeted. You know, it was probably my fault, but I'm like, I know it's early, but I hope the Raiders keep clapping these boys. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. So, but outside or inside, because you're there. So, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's one of those things that the rest of the league is catching up talent wise, or is it that obviously you lost to Tyreek Hill, so is it that you're losing talent, or what's really happening?
No, I think you kind of hit it there. This team is a lot changed over, right? There's a lot of newcomers on this team, offense and defense. A lot of youth, especially on defense. Rookie wise. There are a lot of first year players making significant snaps, but even besides that, new veterans. Obviously the receiving core is completely turned over from Tyreek, Demarcus Robinson, and Byron Pringle like it was last year. And that's where I do think it's fair to almost question how good. I think the questions were fair coming into the season. And to talk about the Bills a little bit too, I think that's why maybe it was, I think Chiefs fans felt slighted, right? Like, hey, the Bills are the Super Bowl favorites now. Like, we beat them last time, whatever. I do think it was justified when you look at each team's offseason that one team went through a lot of change. Yeah, you have Mahomes and Reed, but that's a lot of change they're dealing with. And, unproven players at some spots, obviously with rookies and just veterans trying to prove themselves again, and a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster. And then you look at the Bills and, obviously everyone's going to lose some players in the offseason, but it seemed like really all you guys did was add an elite pass rusher in Von Miller and get better, right? So, and not have too much turnover. And when you did have turnover, you might have even upgraded at, like a slot receiver, what you guys have this year compared to like a maybe Cole Beasley last year. But all that to say is yeah, I think when you talk about, maybe the league catching up, I just think we're seeing this new era of the Mahomes, this post Tyreek era. We're still adjusting into it. Still early in this season. They're still kind of feeling out how they're going to play without Tyreek. So I think that's really the main thing why maybe there's some ups and downs, some ebbs and flows. They're always going to be a pretty up and down team energy wise. I mentioned that. That's just how Andy teams work, it feels like. But I think that's kind of the main key here.
Steros, you got something for me?
First of all, man, this is the week I hate Ron.
Oh wow!
nah. Ron's the homie, man. And these are always good conversations. I guess my question comes, now, Tyreek's gone. Kelsey is still the number one receiving option. Who's been the guy that's kind of stepped up? I know, Valdez-Scantling is, in there, and Juju is in there. I know you guys like to use him in space after the catch. And you got my guy Sky Moore over there. Like, so when Pat comes off that first read, who's the next guy that the Bills fans should know about for Sunday?
Well, going into the season, everyone thought it was Juju, right? It seemed like it. The camp, his training camp performance definitely seemed like it. But as the season goes on, it definitely seems like even though Juju does have more targets than him this year by I think 3 or 4, it does seem like Valdez-Scantling has really been that second, I should say impactful receiver, because I do think Juju gets a lot of just these easy catches, kind of just get him in his hands, get quick passes. You're seeing Valdez-Scantling do a lot more intermediate to deep stuff, complimenting off of Kelsey. So yeah, I'd say MVS, but you talk about the receiving core, even he hasn't been consistently impressive, and the receiving core itself outside of Kelsey, I've seen some struggles in terms of getting themselves open, right? A lot of the times you've seen these big pass plays. It's either a really good throw by Mahomes or a very well schemed up play by Andy Reid. We haven't seen a lot of these receivers creating separation. So I know Sterling, I know you, but both you guys probably into the draft. Sky Moore, our second round pick, he hasn't played a lot this year yet, but I think he is kind of this key to maybe boosting this receiving core a little bit, getting him more involved. He's a guy that can create separation quickly off the line. Obviously, deeper in routes as well on route breaks. He's a very smooth route runner. And it was very apparent in training camp. He was much more impressive in that realm than Smith-Schuster and Valdez-Scantling in training camp. His first time, playing with, on the field. So, I that might be a little change up we see against the Bills. I'm kind of excited because they've kind of been teasing it these last couple weeks. So I'm Sky Moore is kind of that X factor kind of guy that I think they need to get involved more.
Yeah, they seem to kind of use him on screens and stuff like that. I mean, I think he's, as from the wide receiver position, I think he's your best route runner right now.
Right.
Mecole Hardman sure hasn't answered the bell. He was doing all that talking this offseason, and he ain't done shit.
Well, hey, and I'll just say on that too. I mean, I was someone that kind of wanted to say, hey, Mecole, the most experienced receiver in the room, right? I think that experience is going to really, make him maybe like one of the top receivers in the room because, hey, he's the only one that has continuity with Mahomes. That all the other guys are new, and I think you seeing him still be just this gadget player this year really speaks to all you need to know about, how little he's progressed as a player, how limited he is as a player. And, it's just, he is who he is now. So yeah, it is. I kind of had my last ditch effort to say, okay, McColl's going to turn it around this year, be like a legit receiver. And we're not seeing it. So you're right. You have a good eye, Sterling, because you are 100% correct.
Let me ask you this though, because you're talking about how the roster's changed and how these new pieces aren't or are fitting in. Again, I said this to Pete yesterday, and I'm like, I'm gonna get it right next time, and I feel like I'm about to butcher it again. But Pacheco, is it Pacheco? Pacheco. I was close, damn it.
Yeah, but I've heard Pacheco, so that was definitely closer than that. So.
Okay, well, I like him, and for some reason, it seems like I understand that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is Hilaire, or however you say his name. I understand that he's the RB1 there, but the thing is, I feel like throughout the season so far, I've watched him, and there have been moments that he just hasn't come up big as an RB1. He's dropped some passes, he's missed some holes, he's done some things that. Honestly, the same frustrations the Bills fans have with our running backs. And then it seems like every time this rookie gets on the field, he just jumps off the screen to me, man. Like he pops. So why isn't Andy Reid like putting him in the offense? And then after this, I do want to really quickly touch on the Pittsburgh game against the Bills. Let's celebrate real quick, like in a different way. And then we'll move on to this game.
Well, yeah, it is quick because Clyde has definitely taken that pass game role this year. Everything we thought of him as a prospect in the first round as that receiving back, he's definitely gotten better at that this year. You mentioned some drops. Yes, it hasn't been perfect, but it's a lot more creative and better than it has been in years past. Okay. And so he has that role. And so there's this other role for the kind of the under center, downhill runner kind of back. And that seems to be rotating between Pacheco and McKinnon. The Bucs game, it was Pacheco. He was the hot guy. But I do think McKinnon gets that 30-yard run on Monday night. They kind of lean on the hot hand, and Pacheco doesn't play. So right now, it does just kind of seem like it's just riding the hot hand between those two. But I do think Pacheco eventually, he's a rookie, and he's a 7th-round pick too. So I think eventually, as the season goes, he'll get going.
Sterles, I want your opinion on this, and I'll give mine as well. Sarah says, Kelsey and Edwards-Helaire are my concerns. Our run defense has been stout, but really untested because we get ahead so quickly and they abort the run. How do you feel about that?
Clyde Edwards-Helaire is not a concern. I think anything, it's what Kelsey does to open up the offense, right? I think Jerick McKinnon is probably, the better back. If you ask me who I'm afraid of, is Jerick McKinnon, just from what he's able to do from a speed standpoint, testing the edge, catching ball in the backfield. Clyde, if you want to hand the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire 15 times, I would be more than happy to see that. But it all starts with Kelsey and their offensive line. They got the best 3 interior offensive linemen in the game, right? And it starts up front for the Chiefs, man. And they're doing it differently. They're building that roster. Don't disagree with me, Strel. It's all love. It's all love. But I don't know. We got the Chiefs expert here.
She's gonna be real mad at me because I'm gonna disagree with her big time. But go ahead.
But Kelsey opens that whole offense up, and so I don't think it's gonna be a battle of the run games. Even though we saw Josh Jacobs get off last night, we're gonna see a lot of this game. Because they know they have to outscore each other. Right. It's gonna be in the hands of these two quarterbacks.
Well, yeah.
And so, real quick, I'm sorry. My thoughts on that is I don't necessarily even agree with the point that we get ahead so quickly and abort the run. Like if you're talking about Pittsburgh, fine. But like because I was pissed off, like I was so upset the first couple of weeks because I felt like it wasn't a full, complete game of dominance on offense. When you look at the Tennessee game, like, well, what was the score at halftime? Like 10 points? 10,
13, 10 or 10, 10 or something like that.
And when you figure that the Buffalo Bills have had 8 games in a row prior to the Ravens game that they scored on the first drive, to go into half at 10, that to me, that's not getting up big. Like, so we still in Tennessee had Derrick Henry and he has great 2 great games back to back now. So I was questioning if Derrick Henry was still Derrick Henry. He looks like he is. And for whatever reason, either they didn't figure it out against the Bills, or the Bills just really have a good run defense. When you look at the Super Bowl defending champions, same thing. The Rams, I think it was 17-10 at the half, which isn't like a lead that makes you think like, okay, they can't throw the ball anymore. So I just look at it like, I really think our run defense has improved. Like, we got rid of Starla Tulele and we got rid of some guys and brought back Jordan Phil. And like, now it's a thing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I hear what Sarah's saying, and I understand why her concerns are where they are. I think Kelsey is the concern. My bad, Ryan. You had something to say?
Oh, well, no, you talk about Kelsey. I mean, I do think that's something I'm really curious to see in this game, this matchup, is how the Bills, if they do kind of change up anything on how they defend Kelsey. I think a lot of times in the past, they've kind of just, played it straight up. Like, look, we're not doing anything special. We'll kind of just trust our really good zone defenders, and obviously when they're in man too, to make plays on defense. But, without Tyreek Hill, defenses are, and the Raiders are doing it the most that I've seen this year. Defenses are wanting to take away Kelsey and force Mahomes to go to his new players. But it's just crazy to me. And this is the funniest part of this year, is that it doesn't matter. Kelsey and Mahomes are making it not matter, even though defenses do want to take them away. And so I'm really curious. The Bills are probably the best. I would say they're the best defense, the Chiefs have faced this year. I am curious to see just if they handle it any different.
Yeah, I don't, from a schematic standpoint, I mean, I think that you're going to see some double teams with Kelsey. The Bills' MO on defense is to keep everything in front of them. It's like lock it down. And then, when you get in the 20s, then, okay, here we go, right? Because they don't want to get beat deep. The thing that tips it in Buffalo's favor is that the run defense is improved. So, they're going to make Kansas City one-dimensional. But again, you're talking about the best quarterback in the game in Patrick Mahomes. But if you can stop Kelsey, no one can stop Kelsey, but the Bills have not let him pop off as much as other teams have, right? So without Micah Hyde, I think it's going to be harder. Jordan Porter's back, but they do have a lot of young guys back in that secondary, so they're going to have to do some help coverage over top.
I think it's going to be Poyer and Milano together. It's a combination of those two guys that are going to have to do whatever happens against Kelsey. The difference that I think between these other teams and what the Bills are going to do, I don't think the Bills are going to be stupid enough to try and do any man-to-man.
Right.
I get that. So like last year when you have Tyreek Hill, that I don't care if you got man-to-man zone or whatever. If he has an inch of space, he can go from 0 to 500 miles per hour in a split second, and he can make it happen. This year, I just don't think, and we're not on the game yet, but I don't think that the speed is the same for what our defense has. So I'm not saying that I feel like we're going to just come in and dog walk y'all boys at home. Like, that's not what I'm thinking. But what I do think it's a completely different game plan than what we saw last year in the divisional round. Like, I don't see it being, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes and Josh both as talents, I don't think, and Pete agreed with me yesterday, I don't think the Chiefs have what it takes to go toe for toe like that. I think they really would have to play like the time of possession game in order to win this game at home.
Yeah, well, it is fascinating because, I mentioned just your guys' defensive line and the top tier edge rusher Von Miller now, being a big factor in that, but obviously Gregory Rousseau as well. And just the fact that you have so much depth. One way to kind of maybe help against those pass rushing edges, which we saw Wiley and Brown both struggle Monday night and throughout the season, against edge rushers, is running the ball. So I am curious to see if they really lean on that. The Bucs game was really one of the only times I've really been super impressed with how the Chiefs came out and ran the ball. It is an effort thing. It is a mentality thing with this team. It is a game plan thing too. It's a mix up. It's you can tell Andy starts calling more counter plays and power plays and toss sweeps rather than just leaning on inside-outside zone all game. And so that's, if they do kind of come out with that assertive mindset in the run game, I think it makes sense and kind of speaks to your point that they don't think they can keep up like in a shootout like we saw in the divisional round last year.
You know what? I've been trying to stay away from the game, and it seems like all we're talking about is the game. So let's.
How can you not talk about it? How can you not talk about it?
I'm trying to.
Well, hey, you guys didn't get your. You got to celebrate the Steelers win, maybe.
Well, no, and you know what? And that's what I was about to say. You know what? We beat them. We dog walked them. We did what we were supposed to do last week on, I forget which show, but somebody asked me what do you need to see from the Bills against the Steelers in order to feel confident going into this game against the Chiefs? And I said I need them to not only cover the spread, but I need them to dominate. That's what they did offensively and defensively. Kenny Pickett had a decent day statistically as far as yards, but you give up 3 points, I can't be mad. Any last thoughts from either one of you on that game, and then we can just get right into, because I feel like even when we're trying to talk about the Raiders, we're talking about the Bills and Chiefs, and then we're trying to. So let's just go ahead and get last thoughts, Sterles.
I don't have any thoughts on it, man. I think you hit it on the head. I'm just ready to talk about the Chiefs. The Steelers. It was a dress rehearsal, man. Let's be honest.
Shout out to Levi Wallace. I hope you're doing better, man. Real talk.
Yeah, Ron, Levi's dope.
You got any last thoughts on that game from your observations or studies?
Well, I mean, it definitely wasn't a great feeling as a Chiefs fan to see the Bills kind of, make those connections on those Gabe Davis touchdowns right before, the Chiefs game. Something that we saw in Arrowhead last year, obviously his 4 touchdowns. So, it was kind of not the greatest sign to see him kind of come back looking healthy, after kind of being banged up all year. So that's my thoughts.
Hey, I needed that. I needed that, bro. If y'all having a bad day, y'all just missed something golden. That was beautiful, dog.
It happened like perfectly too. I did it, and then he said it. It was perfect. So, all right, well, let's get into it. So let's start off. Typically, when we start off about the upcoming week, we always start off with the injury reports as of today. So we'll start off with the Buffalo Bills. Listen, this is still a long injury report, but I'm going to just tell you what, for Bills fans, this is a celebration. This is a celebration. I'll go down it real quick. We had so many limited guys. So I'll start there. Benford limited, Edmonds limited, Elam limited, Jones, as in Daquan Jones, limited, Dawson Knox limited. We had Von Miller limited for rest day, so he's fine. Mitch Morris limited, Jordan Phillips limited, and Jordan Poyer limited. All these guys, I'm telling you right now, it's the Chiefs. They're playing. And if they're not playing, I mean, if there's one that I feel like isn't playing, I feel like it's maybe, we'll get there. Did not practice. We had Tywan Jones with a knee that didn't practice. We had Jake Kumaro with an ankle that did not practice. And we had Roger Saffold, which also was veteran rest, that did not practice. To me, this is like a blessing, not even in disguise. It's just a blessing. Sterles, thoughts on how the injury report is now seemingly it looks like we're getting healthy at the right time.
Yeah. I don't. Only person on here I see that probably won't play is Jake Kumaro, but I feel like, and I don't know the status of Tywan Jones. He didn't practice today, but I feel like the rest of these guys, they're playing. And we've seen, maybe Sean McDermott had this idea that, Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, the whole idea was to get them ready for this game. I think if you're going to have any kind of effective pass rush, it needs to be through the middle, not necessarily the edges on Patrick Mahomes. So the Bills are getting healthy at the right time.
And I tell you what, obviously I had my jokes and stuff like that. I was sad that Tremaine and Jordan didn't play last week, but I think everybody who watches football from a certain perspective knew we could kind of sit Maine and Jordan out last week, and it was one of those things. This week, we need those guys. Like we need those fellas. Let's take a look at my man Ron's team real quick. Ron, why don't you run down your squad real quick, man?
Absolutely. No, you guys mentioned you guys are getting healthy at the right time. All of a sudden we got a lengthy injury report list after kind of, having a good amount of health for most of the season. Right off the top, Tershawn Wharton actually tore his ACL, so he's out for the season. Wow. he's not playing no matter what. He's an important secondary kind of edge rusher, not edge rusher, interior rusher. In those third down packages, man, he's a spark plug. So they're going to miss him. But the other guy's not practicing. You saw cornerback Rashad Fenton, who got burned on Monday night a couple times. He has a hamstring injury, and he's not practicing. And then Brian Cook, the rookie third safety for the Chiefs, plays in the dime defense. I actually didn't notice that he got a concussion until after the game, I heard. So don't really know where that's at. And with today's NFL, that's probably going to be kept out maybe out of this game, depending on how severe it is. But big important thing is Harrison Butker. The Chiefs have been missing their starting kicker very much, and he's limited, so we don't know for sure if he's going to be back or not. But besides that, Frank Clark is limited. He left at halftime of this last game with an illness after playing pretty well in the first half, so that was pretty disappointing. Mike Dana, he's been out a few games, but I think he's trending on the way back. And the rest of these guys I'll kind of skip over, except for Trey Smith, because it is worth noting. You guys mentioned, leaving maybe some Bills players out of the Steelers game because of the matchup. Well, it seemed like I think Trey Smith could have gone Monday night if they really wanted him to, but I think they just wanted to get him all the way back to 100%. for this game, like you guys kind of mentioned, this game's all important. So Trey Smith, the right guard, he did not play. I guess he's missed a couple games now, or he left early in the game, but he should be back for Buffalo, and that's really good for the Chiefs' offensive line. They need him.
I think your point there is the most important part, because you saw that pass rush of the Raiders actually disrupt Patrick Mahomes. And I think right now what you're seeing out the Buffalo Bills since week 1, like every week has been consistent regardless of injuries or not. We've been able to get to the quarterback rushing 4 guys. And if we're able to do that with Von Miller and Greg Rousseau and whoever else is on the line this week, if we're able to do that and then drop 7 back into coverage, it's going to make it very difficult for Patrick Mahomes. So let's get into it, man. So we went through the injury report. You have a lengthy one for the first time, it seems like, and ours is still long, but if we feel confident now, like, oh, we're getting healthy, even though we got guys limited. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, well, let me ask you guys. I mean, if we're getting into this game, if we're kind of getting into the nitty gritty, I am curious what you got, because you kind of mentioned earlier how, the Bills aren't going to be dumb and just kind of, playing man coverage are going to stay in their zone. I imagine is what you're saying, kind of, stay in their 2 high zones. But that's the thing with this, something I'm worried about with this Chiefs receiving core, I kind of mentioned it earlier, is that they're not creating separation themselves. They're not necessarily, getting open by themselves. I think man coverage is almost working a little better this year against this team. And honestly, maybe a change up that does switch them up. So I don't know. I just maybe wanted to get your thoughts on, because it sounds like you kind of maybe, thought that wasn't a good idea. From my perspective, I actually think it might be a nice little change up, because I do think if you do come out with that same static zone they've been seeing, over the last 2 matchups, I do think Andy and Mahomes just are going to feel pretty comfortable just, kind of, operating against that, not very uncomfortable in that state. So all that to say is just how confident are you that the defense is going to, play that kind of, that conservative style rather than maybe a little more aggressive?
Oh, well, I'll let you take it first, Zeros, but I don't think it's going to be conservative at all. But I just don't think we're going to be in man. But go ahead.
I think they're going to, if you go from the film that I watched, the Bills games this year, they're going to mix up those coverages. And I think last week we saw, Kyrie Elam being in man probably a little bit more than and that's his strength. And he was still kind of getting toasted by, NFL young boy over there. So I just think that you're going to see some of that. I think if you had Micah, you see a little bit more, but you don't have Micah. So, you can have Poyer as that single high safety and kind of shade. DeMar Hamlin did a good job last week, but again, this is Patrick Mahomes. You guys don't necessarily have that deep threat. So, if you guys are using flood concepts or you're using drag routes and stuff like that, I think this would be for you guys. It'd be a great game to kind of get Pacheco and McKinnon on these swing passes in the screen game.
Right.
But I do expect Frazier to mix it up a little bit, but I still feel like they're going to stay true to what they've been doing. And they're going to take away the run. You're not going to be able to run the ball effectively. So you're going to be forced in 2nd and 3rd and long to see what Mahomes can do. So, and this is where the edge rushers come into play.
Yeah. And saying on to piggyback off of that, it's one of those things where I look at, so Von Miller actually has gone on a record to say, not about this game, but he's been saying like the key to being a great defense and a great defensive team is to go in there and not let teams dictate what you do. Like you have to be yourselves and continue to be yourselves and make them adjust to us. And I think the thing is, if I'm being honest about it too, like we know who Travis Kelce is. So it's like, if we decide, yeah, okay, well, let's go, man, and let's do this. It's just one of those things where it's like, he's the one you don't want to get beat by. Yeah. Like if we're going to lose this game, let everybody else beat. Like if we lose this game and out of nowhere, Juju has like 180-yard day with 2 touchdowns. And then you got like, it's something that clearly you guys just beat us. You know what I mean? We're not going to see Travis Kelce with 4 touchdowns this Sunday. And if Chiefs fans are looking for that, I'm sorry. This is not a shot, but it's not happening. You're not getting 4 touchdowns out of Travis Kelce this Sunday against the Buffalo Bills.
Well, so my thoughts on you're talking Kelce and you're kind of maybe thinking through the differences, because I think either way, I think you guys are going to stay in 2 high. I think there's no doubt about that. That's just, like you said, true to who you are. But maybe just playing more man under that than maybe, and they played man quite a bit, against the Chiefs in the divisional round too, and got caught in it a few times, like the Tyreek play, obviously. But
yeah,
no, I the thing with Kelce though is that I think you know, and I know he's shaking some, you know, I know he made Isaiah Simmons look silly in week 1 on a few routes, and I know he's shaking some dudes, but he is at his best, you know, manipulating zone defenders, right? You know, his route running, his you know, subtle cuts, you know, getting by, you know, into their blind spot, making him think he went that way, and then all of a sudden he's the other way, and he creates that throwing window that way. That's where him and Mahomes shine. Is they're just unnatural, unreal chemistry between each other, finding the windows between zone defenders, and again, Kelsey really just, you know, using his route running, his eyes, his just such a technician, and able to kind of create his own space by, you know, making a defender think he goes one way or the other. So that's where, you know, I think I think almost a more effective, you know, way to kind of maybe make Mahomes uncomfortable would be, you know, man Kelsey up, and then maybe just have, you know, one of your 2 high safeties, whichever side he's on, just maybe give him a little more attention, you know, come up a little bit. And then, yeah, maybe you're risking a little bit of the deep play on that, but you know, MVS, McColl, they have shown some deep targets, but yeah, you guys mentioned that there hasn't really been a true deep passing game this year for the Chiefs offense at all, really. I mean, we haven't seen it. It's really been everything, you know, intermediate to short. And so that's why I think maybe a defense like the Bills, talented enough, could maybe get away with, you know, kind of, like I said, that more attention on Kelsey. So
here's one thing that no one's talking about: the maturation of Tremaine Edmonds in this game. Because
who ain't talking about it?
Well, no, hold on. I'm gonna tell you what area I'm talking about specifically. So Mahomes, like you mentioned, is
who
dynamite.
Ain't talking about it? Who ain't talking about it, dog? I want to know who ain't talking about it.
It's the eye movement. You know what I'm saying? What Mahomes is able to do in the pocket and moving his eyes, Tremaine has fallen sucker to that for 2 years straight. And I think, you know, now he's playing a lot better.
Wait, you trying to talk through that? Who ain't talking about it? I want to know. You said ain't nobody talking about it. I want to know who ain't, because I'm talking about it.
You talking about it. But the majority of the fan base isn't talking about the matchup between Tremaine Edmonds, Kelsey with Mahomes in terms of how he's able to dictate coverages with his eyes and stuff. And, you know, I would say that Tremaine hasn't been great at that throughout his career. He's playing a lot better. This will be the biggest test for him. I think, you know, when we go back on the season, when it's all said and done, and we look at Tremaine Edmonds, I think, you know, this will be one of those turning corners for him, potentially, that if he can be disciplined in what he sees and trust his defense, trust his teammates around him, that he can really cause some havoc here. I mean, no one's going to 1v1 on Kelsey. I mean, this is not going to happen. He's just too damn good, too big, right? Too good of a route runner. But you were mentioning those zone coverages. And so this is where, you know, your discipline has to come into play.
Right.
Thomas says Tremaine and Matt have had success because of the improvement along the defensive line. I agree with that, but I also first, I agree with that. So I'm not disputing this at all when I make this statement. But I also think Tremaine and Matt have grown. Like, I just think that they're like, this year, Tremaine is a different player. Like, he's hitting people differently. He's running through holes differently. He's he's just, I hope everybody, Bills fans, got a chance to watch, what was it, like the mic'd up thing against the Baltimore Ravens?
Brick by brick.
Brick by brick. You know what I mean? Like, Ron, I know you're not a Bills fan. I'm going to send it to you, though. Like, just because I know you're a fan of football and I know you love it. Dude, it's one of the things, like, if you just watch it from a pure football perspective and as a fan of the game, like when you see the way Bills fans talk about this dude sometimes and what he's been through as a player to get to this point, like, dude, you just can't help but appreciate it and love this dude, man. Like, Tremaine is, I've always loved Tremaine. I've always loved Tremaine. So, I mean, I got a problem there anyway. Like, I can't admit anything else because I thought the dude has been a beast since he came out. He's made mistakes. He's young. He was young. I still think he's young, but he can't have the excuse anymore. Well, he's only 19. He was young when he came out. He matured. And I think now what you're seeing is a guy that is of age that normally people get drafted at. And when they go to schools like Alabama or they go to these big schools and they come out, they're pro ready. And I think Virginia Tech is a good school. But when he came out at that age, I don't think he wasn't ready to be this Tremaine that we're seeing this year. So it helps when you give him this type of defensive line, and it helps when you put Jordan Poyer, all pro Poe behind him, and you know, like, it just helps. So, I mean, I could talk all night about Tremaine.
Well, I do want to say just real quick off that is, like, that's how long we've been talking about Chiefs Bills, is that I can remember when, you were getting kind of slack for kind of standing behind Edmonds because he was having some struggles, and it's cool to see him, you know, you're you're backing your boy, you're backing your guy. So I'm happy for you guys. He's progressed. I just remember when it was very unproven. So that's how long we've been doing this thing. So that's cool.
Yeah, you're right. You've been there since the beginning.
We appreciate that, Ron. We appreciate.
I just vividly remember the Edmonds being a big deal for you, Jay Spence. So I'm happy to see you. I'm happy.
Just bodies everywhere this year, man. But you know what? I did want to bring up something because somebody in the comments, and let me see if I can find it real quick. They spoke about the Chiefs needing to be worried about Shakir. Now, this is my question first for Sturls, and then I'll bring it back around to Ron. When you look at his injury report, like I said, we're getting healthy now. So, okay, Kumaro he still may not play, but Isaiah McKenzie's back. So either, does Hopkins go back down? Does, so are we looking at really, is Shakir literally going to be one of those guys now every week, regardless of who's healthy? Is he a guy that's going to be on this roster 53?
Yeah, and the cool thing is that the Bills are operating in a little bit of 10 personnel last week, right? We really haven't seen that this season so far. So I think you got to give the kid a shot. I think he's just as good as Sky Moore, not as explosive, but in terms of route running and separation, he's really good. So honestly, he is the slot receiver of the future for the Buffalo Bills. Let's call it what it is. He's playing that well, so I expect him to get more chances coming up.
All right, so then now I'll swing this around to Ron now. So you've seen a couple games where we've used him in the offense. Now we've used him in the screen game, and then this last game he had some big plays too. What are your thoughts coming from a Kansas City perspective when you're looking at this rookie? Like we just talked about Sky Moore. What about our guy now? We have a rookie that obviously he's my guy, so I tweeted out he's my favorite rookie wide receiver. But really, he's making big plays for Josh. What is it like for you?
Man, no, last Sunday, you're right. I couldn't believe, how good he looked, and the fact that he went in the 5th round. I do remember him getting some good hype in the pre-draft process. So
we talked about him.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Me and Sterles talked about him. So I mean, it was definitely a good pick, and it honestly it just kind of speaks to how deep your guys' playmaking kind of cupboard is. Because and Khalil Shakir, I guess I should stay on this. The Chiefs slot cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, he is a more physical player. He is he's a longer player, but he does have the speed to kind of keep up and the athleticism to keep up with slot players, which is why he's been able to play in the slot. So he's one of the only cornerbacks that I feel good about, whoever he's covering to an extent. So I guess when I think of Bills receivers, I think of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis against what anyone watching Monday Night Football saw. And Chiefs cornerbacks that are having a tough time against outside receivers, especially on the perimeter. Deep plays. They're getting taken to the woodshed a little bit. But I guess one thing we didn't mention on the injury report because he's not on it yet. But cornerback Trent McDuffie is eligible to return to from IR this week, and he did practice, but he just hasn't been taken off IR, so it doesn't register on the injury report. But all that to say is, I was very impressed with Shakir, so I'm definitely, excited to see him, see if he can keep making plays. But as a Chiefs fan, man, I saw Devontae Adams on Monday night. I think Stephon Diggs can have a very, very similar impact, unfortunately. But I really do. And even Gabe Davis, too. I mean, we've seen it. Unfortunately, we've seen that in Arrowhead, Gabe Davis have a big game. So the two outside receivers are definitely my more concern.
You know what? When you said that, I think, to be honest, again, this is where it gets difficult. And I know you can relate to this as a Chiefs fan over the last several years. I'm not trying to sound cocky when I say this. I really think that Diggs and Davis can have a bigger day than what we saw out of Adams for several reasons. The way the offense is now developed for the Bills, they've really figured out how to – Josh has taken literally what the defense gives him. And when the defense gives him that long ball, he'll take it. But he's gotten comfortable since week 1. Throwing the ball to Steph for 5 yards and letting him turn it into 9, or throwing it to him for 3 yards and turning it into 7. He's perfectly comfortable with doing that. And I think you're going to see more than just a couple big plays and some pass interference calls. You're going to actually see guys eat up these yards, and we methodically go down the field like first down, touchdown. I think that's how – and the same thing with you guys now, because I don't think without Tyreek Hill, I think it minimizes, not completely, but I think it diminishes a little bit your ability to have those big plays. So, I just think it's going to be different this week, and I'm curious to see about the matchup with your cornerbacks. That's what is intriguing me the most.
Right. Well, I think you're right about the Devontae Adams point, how, he did have a big game, but it was only 3 catches. And that was something going into the game. I thought you'd see, maybe, 9, 10, 11 catches, just force feeding him the ball. And I could definitely see a higher volume of impact plays from the Bills receiving corps, just because they have a more competent quarterback in Josh Allen, someone that understands, you guys say, take what you give him, but he's a good enough quarterback, a impressive enough, arm to, kind of force balls that maybe aren't even open, but hey, I want to get Stephon Diggs the ball here, and I'm going to trust him to go make this play on a sideline route where, it looks like he might be covered. I mean, those are the kind of things where these cornerbacks, Jalen Watson is playing a lot of snaps. He's a 7th round rookie, and he has looked good. He is a competent player. Yeah. He actually looks better than Rashad Fenton, but that's not saying much. So that's where it's like, he looks competent, but man, he is still a rookie. Yeah, I know.
Dang,
I know.
Bro.
No, Chiefs Kingdom is completely turned on Fenton, so I'm not worried about that. But no, it's just that I think Allen's the type of quarterback, to test the receivers more downfield, even if, maybe the corners seem to have decent coverage. And I think that's what's really gonna, like you said, make it a bigger impactful game than even Adams had Monday night.
Yeah, your corners are getting torched, my boy.
Yes, they are.
They go get that work on Sunday, bro.
It's about to be filthy.
And the sad part is it's the group minus a rookie 1st round pick. So yes, it's a 1st round pick, but it's still a rookie cornerback that you're relying on coming back and making it all better. So yeah, it's not going to get better before it gets any worse, I guess is the term, right? Yeah. So
let me ask you this, Ron, and I'll get your perspective on this too, Strohs. It is the first time, I believe, in your quarterback's career, Patrick Mahomes has never been an underdog at home. Yeah. If I'm reading that properly.
Yes.
And for the first time, I think they opened up at 1.5. And I think today, when I looked prior to the show, it was at 3. So the Buffalo Bills are favored to go. Typically, like, even when it's evenly matched, they'll still kind of give the home team the favorite by like 2 or 3 points. And that's basically the home field advantage. Mm-hmm. The Bills are favored by 3. So you take that home field advantage away, and it almost sounds like Vegas is saying 6 points. How do you feel about that? How does Chiefs Kingdom? I'm sure they're not happy. How does Chiefs Kingdom feel about this? And realistically, is it disrespectful, or do you feel like it's something that is like, okay, this is what is happening now?
Well, it is disrespectful. I mean, if you're in Mahomes' shoes, right? If you're in Andy Reid's shoes, I mean, you do feel disrespected being an underdog at home, but I don't think it's outrageous or unnecessary. I mentioned it earlier, but I do think you just got to kind of sit down and look at each team's resume from the offseason, see how close they were as competitors last year. I mean, it just because the Chiefs won, either team could have won that game very easily, as we both know. It's just the Bills are the one that kind of, stayed the same or got better, while the Chiefs, definitely didn't stay the same and potentially got worse. And we still don't know exactly, how high their ceiling is. I think we're going to maybe, find out maybe this game, how they perform. So all that to say, yeah, I don't think it's not disrespectful to me. Like, I don't feel disrespected. I do think the line should maybe be closer to 0. I think 3 points on the road is a lot for the Bills. I mean, I think that's a little unfair for y'all, but yeah, I mean, it's disrespectful to the players. That's all that matters. They're going to feel disrespected, I promise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over here drinking a whole bottle of wine by myself because I'm nervous for the game, okay? So
it's coming, man.
I know, dude. I think you throw all the records out. You throw all the records out, man. When these two guys play, I mean, it's almost Brady Manning. I mean, you just never know. Whoever has a hot hand is who's going to win. I don't think your defense is going to matter. I don't think the Bills' defense is really going to matter when you're playing with 2 elite quarterbacks like that. I think it's going to come down to coaching and quarterback play is what's going to win this game. So, call it disrespectful. This week, I'm not even really paying attention to the betting lines that much, right? I'm not putting that much stock into it because I know how good Mahomes is and the Chiefs are, and it's any given Sunday. So, but it's going to be a damn good game, and I cannot wait for it.
It's gonna be a great game. I'm hoping. So as a Bills fan now, like take the professional side of me out of it. As a fan, I'm hoping that the line is accurate. I'm hoping that it's one of those things where it's like you look at the way the Chiefs defense is played. It's not ranked at the top of the league, like you would kind of expect Chiefs defense to be. And Josh has taken a step forward. Mahomes is still Mahomes, but our defense, as a fan, like this is how I'm looking at it. But then, like Sterling said, man, realistically, you take a step back and you look at it, it's like, man, that boy. I told somebody yesterday. Somebody said to me, "Oh no, the Bills gonna blow them out. We're different than the Raiders." And I was like, they still got 15. Like they got that dude. Like we got Josh, and they got that other guy. Like Mahomes he's different, man. So I think it's gonna be a fun matchup. I'm not as nervous as Sterling, but I think it's gonna be a good one. So in the comments, we about to get down to some predictions. We're gonna do some stat lines for both Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen this week. We can start off with Sterls, and I'll save Ron since he's the guest of the hour. We'll save Ron's for the ending here. But Sterls, let's get a stat line for Josh, a stat line for Mahomes, and then a game prediction and your reasoning as to why you're going whichever way you're going.
Yeah, I'm going to go 27-38, 341, 3 touchdowns. I think it's going to be Bills 30-30.
30-30.
Yeah.
Let's get it. Let's get it. I'm going to go. Wait, say the score again.
34-30. Bills.
30. I just like when you said, and I said it, I'm like, wait, 34-30. I'm with you, but okay. I'm gonna surprise people. Yesterday I had a different score, but I've slept on it, and this morning I watched the condensed versions of a couple games and then a couple games full version of the Chiefs, and same thing with the Bills. I think it's gonna be lower scoring than what we're expecting. I think it's gonna be like low 20s. I think it's like 24-21. I think that 3-point thing stands. I'm going to go with my guys because I'm going to go with my guys, but I think it could go either way. Like if it comes down to 3 points, obviously I'm saying that the Chiefs have a very realistic chance to beat the Bills, but I don't think it's going to be that 30-point juggernaut scoring thing, because I think both defenses are going to take this personally, and with Josh and Mahomes being who they are, they're going to get theirs, but I just don't think it's going to be one of those things where Josh is going to be able to just that. Now I hope he does, but I'm not seeing a 400-yard game this week. I'm not seeing 6 touchdowns and all that stuff. With Mahomes, again, I think our defense is better. I think he's going to get his. I don't see it being one of those games like the opener. Like when you guys came and played the Cardinals, it was just like not even. I didn't even. I was like, oh, we're going to go through this again this year, and I don't think it's going to be that. And then as far as stats, I think Josh, I'm gonna go with like 285, 2 touchdowns. We're going to get 1 on the ground. Not from Josh. It's going to be, I think Devin's going to get his first touchdown on the ground this week. So I'm going to go 2 touchdowns from Josh through the air, like 285, 275 around there. I think Mahomes might have more yards passing because I think they're going to try to control the clock. So it's going to be a lot more of that stuff. So I think it's going to be one of those maybe 315. Same thing, 2 touchdowns. I'm going to give him a pick. I'm going to give him a pick because I think he's going to try to press the issue in a way to Travis Kelce one time that Jordan Poyer ain't going to like. Shout out to All Pro Poe.
All Pro Poe.
All Pro Poe. What's up with you, Ron? What
you
think?
That. Well, okay. Well, I like the stat line prediction. That's kind of cool. I was just actually looking at last year's the playoff game stat line, and kind of looking at that, and it is kind of funny. Like Josh Allen only had 320 yards. You'd think in that kind of game, you know each quarterback would get closer to 400. Like Mahomes wasn't even there either, but. Okay, looking at this game, we've talked about so much, with how the offenses are kind of just going to do their thing, right? And I believe that, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game in terms of the Chiefs is a good example of what they can do when they really have a mindset. They were the underdog in that game as well, and I think that does play into it a little bit with the energy that came out with the strategy, the game plan, and so I do see the offense coming out firing. And I see the Bills offense coming out firing, but I got to take my guys. I got to take the home team. You guys got to get one of these games in Buffalo before I'm going to pick y'all. So Chiefs 34-31. I like the 34-30 score, Sterl. So I'm stealing from you a little bit. 34-31. I'm going to go Josh as 3-30-3 because I do think the Bills are going to be able to put up some points and obviously put up some air yards, put up some passing yards, no doubt. And I do think, Josh will do some stuff on the ground too. That's one thing, we didn't talk about, but Willie Gay is suspended. He is a huge part of tackling a scrambling Josh Allen, even on the design runs too. And not having him, because he's so athletic and a linebacker, not having him is a huge deal, dealing with Allen. So that's where I think the Bills offense is going to have a lot of success. But again, Mahomes at home, Andy Reid, A+ game plan, over my dead body kind of performance from Mahomes. But at the same time, I do think he only gets to, I'll say 280 and 2 touchdowns. I do think we see the ground game a little more impactful this week. They did it against the Bucs, and I know the Bills. I think the Bills have a stronger defensive line than the Bucs had that game. They were a little banged up, and they had Vita Vea, but not some other guys. But all that to say, Chiefs 34-31. That's what I'm going with, guys. I think it's gonna be a great game.
Yo, my man Juan, real quick before he said the Chiefs secondary gonna get violated. The train isn't stopping. Keep it rolling. 44-17 Bills. Can I just say, if this happens, do you know what the world as we know it as far as sports will be in shambles? ESPN, FS1, every podcast network, every vidcast network, it will be in shambles. You'll be hearing about people outside of Buffalo are tired of hearing about Josh Allen right now. I'm telling you, if that happens, it's going to be ridiculous. I don't even think I'll want to cover the Bills next week if that happens. It's going to be too much, just like too much. So, all right, let's go ahead and get ready to get on out of here. Before we do, though, man, again, I want to thank Ron for taking the time out to join me.
Yes, sir.
We always have a great time. We got to get you on a chop up, too. So Sterling and I, along with my man Antoine Staley, he covers the Jets. We get together on Saturday nights, and we kind of talk about the entire league for the most part. We also throw in some stuff about music and hip hop and all that stuff. So we got to get you on and just have a good time with that, man. Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, what work you got coming up this week? I'm sure you're busy like the rest of us. So let's know what you got coming up.
Man, you're not kidding, especially with the short week. It has been hectic this week, but I appreciate you guys having me on. I had a lot of fun talking through this. I feel like I know a lot more about the game after talking with y'all. So appreciate y'all. Yeah, I am on Twitter at Ron_Kopp. I am the lead analyst at arrowheadpride.com. You can follow all my work there. I'm writing articles pretty much daily, and so appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate you guys letting me plug my stuff.
Man, anytime. And I just appreciate you because you're actually, when you said it, and I said it earlier, but then when you reiterated, it was like, no, this dude really family now. Like, we've really been kicking it every year, and I don't see it stopping because I feel like we're gonna play you guys now. Those are the marquee guys, so we're gonna be talking to each other for the next decade, man. So let's keep it going, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, there's no stopping these two contenders, in the near future. So you're gonna have to get used to me. I'm not going anywhere. So.
And Sterl, same thing. I know this is home technically anyway. Like you be around, but why don't you let everybody know what you got going on? Anything this week that you're doing for any other networks or anything like that?
Yeah, man, I got an article coming up about Josh Allen should drop by this weekend about his MVP campaign. But all my work you can find here at Buffalo Rumblings. You can come find me on Sunday mornings, intentional grounding. So that's always 2 hours before the game. Just depends on when the game is, but that's 2 hours before the game. So I'm happy to be here, Ron. That's my guy. We talk draft. We do our thing, man. He's family for sure, man.
Yeah.
My guys.
It's real though, man. Like it's crazy how doing this podcast has afforded me the opportunity to really build some relationships with some good people. And it's just like, yo, you one of them, man. And this was a dope night. This was a dope experience. And anytime we play the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, you guys are my guys, and I do want to say though, like it's you two for sure, but whole Bills Mafia, man, I do got to give y'all credit because I really take pride in Chiefs Twitter being pretty active and a lot of good information, a lot of guys pointing out different things, pointing out different stats, but I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because I follow a couple of y'all, but man, Bills Twitter is nuts like that too, man. Definitely a ton of smart breakdowns. I mean, just I feel like I know about the Bills just as much as, just because you guys have such good breakdowns in the whole Twitter. So shout out y'all specifically, but man, just Bills Mafia. I think Chiefs Kingdom and Bills Mafia, man, they're a lot more similar than maybe we give them credit for, man. Kind of similar fan bases. We kind of got a little we beat y'all to the start in terms of this new era of winning. We both had the droughts for forever, but I don't know. Now we're here, guys. Let's just enjoy it together. Let's just enjoy this contending together.
I agree with you, and I guess we can end on this. Like, I feel like I wish, because to your point, content wise, like both sides of it, man, like there's great content coming out, good people. I feel like there's a portion of each fan base though that just like really enjoys attacking each other. And I agree with you when I feel like we're a lot alike. Like we're a lot alike, man. And I look at the Chiefs fan base as like a sister or brother fan base. And I would just, I would really love if we could respect. I mean, obviously talk your mess. Like I get off these jokes. You're gonna catch these jokes because they fly. But at the same time, like I love the Chiefs fan base. I wish it could be a little more peaceful sometimes on Twitter when it comes to the fan bases button heads.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I definitely agree. I last year I will say hand up. I riled y'all's feathers a little bit. I pointed out that maybe Josh Allen had a few turnover worthy plays that he got lucky.
That's not a real stat though, right? Turnover, it's trash.
Well, and that's why I wanted to back it up with the clips of it. But that was a bad decision. I will say. But
that was
the beauty of it was I think you had me on like right after that and y'all gave me crap, but it was all love. So I don't know. It's always fun with y'all. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's get on out of here. Much love to everybody in the room. Again, shout out to my man Joe Miller. I missed him tonight. That's my dude. I'm sure we'll be back and better than ever next week. Hold on, my man Brian says that's tough. Twitter is the most toxic place in this earth, and I tell you, you know what? You are not lying, bro. Like you are not lying. But listen, again, shout out to my man Joe. I can't wait to have him back. He had a really good show this week. If you didn't get to check it out, go back and check out the Overreaction show where he had a great reaction. I can't even call it an overreaction, but he had a great reaction to the beat down against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm looking forward to his show this weekend against the Kansas City Chiefs. And y'all already know how we do it over here. This ain't Dakota Conduct, but I'm going to say it. Love each other, take care of each other, and live in peace. And as always, stay positive, test negative. Go Bills.